I'm Courtney Sullivan. I'm head of the Apron Committee. I'll be speaking in a minute, but first off, we have a nice welcome by Dr. John Fritsch.
Good afternoon. This is a very special day on our campus for a few reasons to me, actually. The first is it really reflects on the dedication of our faculty to our students on this campus. I've seen faculty the last few weeks working really closely with students, and caused me to reflect on my own life and how the class was meaningful to me as an undergraduate. But just the memories that I have often deal with the faculty outside of the classroom. And so I want to thank our faculty for the time and energy that you all spend working outside of the classroom with our students. This is an important day for our students. Part of it is they get to present their research. That's nice, right? And I look at the research that's going on, and it is really impressive, especially with the vast array of things that we're working on. And how a lot of these things are starting to cross disciplinary boundaries is really fascinating as well, which is really important as we start to think about the habits of scholarship that are going on with our undergraduate students. But the research itself is not as important as the outcomes of the research, and I don't mean the results. The outcomes of the research, we know that what happens when students do a research project in college, they're more likely to complete college. We also know that if you do a research project in college, you are more likely to live a successful life. The Pew Research did a study on this a couple of years ago, and what I really like is that they didn't just define research as they didn't just define success as making money. They asked graduates, "Are you happy with your life?" And the ones that said yes, you could trace back to 5 factors, and one of those factors was, did you do a meaningful research project engaged with a faculty member? So we've got 2 of those factors to help you have a successful life checked off at today. And I really appreciate the work that our faculty do to help you make this happen. And with that, I hope, there's a lot going on today. Thank you to the people who helped put it together. You show up and it runs, right? We were just talking how much work goes into this. It might seem like it's seamless, and it is, but it's not for the people behind the scenes. And so thank you to the people who have really pulled it together. There's a list of the people on the committee in the program. And is the person here who did the program?
Yeah, he's gonna get introduced in a few minutes. We'll give him a prize.
It is very cool. So, congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
So, welcome to Apron 2025. It's the 23rd annual celebration of student scholarship at Washburn. And so, if you're just walking in, I'm Courtney Sullivan, professor of French and chair of the Apron Committee. And so today we've already learned about the civil rights movement, stained glass, and music inspired by ancient texts and the fine arts performances. And then we had at least 29, maybe 30 lively scholarly presentations in Henderson. And then after this event, as you see behind you, we have more to come with the poster session. So before we hear from our distinguished lecturer, a few thank yous are in order. Supporters in terms of time and funding are on the back of the program, so that's substantial. Thank you very much, college, all the schools, Student Life, the library, and the foundation, and the WTE Transformational Experience. I'd also like to thank the committee and the members who make this work so seamlessly. So if you're a member of the committee, would you please stand up? Thank you. And I'd also like to recognize the mentors, as Dr. Fritsch referred to. With the intellectual spark, they recognize the spark in their students, they believe in their talents, and they encourage them to go further in their research. I know personally it's been such a joy for me to see students I have in class now and students I've had in previous semesters present their research and their original work. It's just really cool to find intellectual community. So we thank all of you. And last but not least, I want to thank Christine Stoner in the CAS office for all the work she's given us to ensure that this runs smoothly. She's put in countless hours, especially this week and the past 2 weeks, and we couldn't have done it without her. So we have well over 150 undergrad and graduate students showcasing their talents across Washburn, several departments in the College of Arts and Sciences, as well as presenters from the schools of business and nursing. So it's really truly an a cross-campus event. Students, if you're here, we're proud of you. This day celebrates your dedication, excellence, and hard work, and so we're here to learn from you today. I'd ask you also to lend an ear to our distinguished lecturer, Rick Barker. As a staunch supporter of students, Professor Barker has generously donated his speaking honorarium to the Computer Information Sciences Department Scholarship Fund. So thank you very much. So I think Rob Kofeld in UMaps is busy doing some, oh, no, he's right back. So here we go. Pass it over to Rob.
I was able to finish my task. So up here we have our winners for our flyer, for our registration, and for our cover. And I understand that one of them could not be here. So I am going to congratulate, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, Blulant, Assured, are you here? I'm sorry. And these are for, this was the design for the cover, and this was our registration flyer that won. Very awesome work. Thank you so much.
So we'll invite Dr. Grosvich up to introduce the lecturer.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce today's distinguished speaker, Associate Professor Emeritus Rick Barker. Rick Barker had a long and distinguished career at Washburn University. For 40 years, he was an iconic presence in the Math and Computer Information Sciences Department and on campus through various committees, including stints as the Faculty Senate President and agitator. One of the areas that Rick will most be remembered was in his teaching of the first programming course that majors took, CM-111, Introduction to Structured Programming. Students that took that course remember how he challenged them to work hard, learned the material thoroughly, and did his best to keep it fun and interesting. Personally, I'm honored to introduce Rick, as he was one of the first faculty members to welcome me to campus and see me as a peer in creating environments where students can be successful. We argued, we laughed, and we commiserated during our shared time. Some of you may know I have a small award that I give to students. It's a challenge coin. That challenge coin is given to students who I believe have gone above and beyond and aren't necessarily in leadership positions, but serve in leadership roles on our campus. I decided shortly before his retirement that Rick deserved one of those coins. And I see the difference that he made on campus and continues to make. Rick is somebody that I really respect and appreciate, because in all of our arguments, one thing came through. Rick only did what he thought was best for Washburn students and its faculty. I always appreciated that. Colleagues, Rick Barker.
Thank you. Now I have to figure out how to turn this thing off. And I'm on with my mic. Thank you, Eric, for the kind introduction. It's an honor to be asked to present the distinguished lecture for 2025. It is my last lecture, even though we don't call it that anymore. It will be my last lecture. Thank you, Dr. Courtney Sullivan and the Apron Committee for this opportunity. I've spent 52 years in higher education. I spent 11 years as a student. 7 of those were as a graduate teaching assistant. When I graduated, I had so much fun in college, I didn't want to leave. And I stayed, and I came here. And I taught here for 41 years. Learning, exploring, continuing is what I wanted to do. Now, I had great mentors make certain I've got this turned on. My major, computer science major advisor, Dr. Beth Unger at KSU was one of my major ones. She was an amazing lady. She, when she taught classes with me, I tried to model my teaching on how she taught her classes. When she had an exam that didn't work, she didn't assume the students hadn't worked, because she said, well, now maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I need to look at how I approach the topic. And when I taught my classes, I always believed I had an A student in there, no matter what. And if everybody bombed the test, then I screwed up. And I always set up a curve. My test, the top score on the test was the total possible. So if there was 100 points available on the test, but the highest score was 90, then everybody had a percentage using 90 as the total points. It was just, it's the way I wanted to do things. And that was part of what she did. She was always concerned about student success. And she always had fun in class. She made you want to be in class and work hard for her. Do you know what a buzzword is? In computer science, back in the 80s and 70s, a buzzword was a word that when you heard it, it went bzz, and you go, what were they saying? OSJCL, do you know what that is? Operating System Job Control Language. We had acronyms for everything. Well, she was teaching a class, and we had people from the Command and General Staff College at Leavenworth, military officers that were working to get promoted beyond major and lieutenant colonel. And they had to get a military science master's, and they had to get another one. And so at the time, computer science was the one. So they came for a year at K-State and took classes in computer science. And they were interesting because they would talk about it, and they, as they said, they believed in violent participation. So she was, we lectured in Fairchild Hall at K-State. And in the fall, when they turned the heat on, it was hot water radiators. So they rattled and hissed and buzzed, and you'd go over and kick them, and then they'd settle down. She was in class, and they had set up a buzzer right next to the radiator. And every time she said a buzzword, they hit the buzzer. And she'd walk over and kick it. Walk back and continue her lecture. Next buzzword, she was over there. Finally, she was over there sitting, leaning against the radiator, and said a buzzword. Now they had committed every time they were going to, so they hit the buzzer, and she goes, all right, you guys. And she went and traced it to him, and she looked at him, and then she just laughed. She said, good one. She was the kind of teacher I wanted to be. Now, I had a group of computer students that wanted to take a C programming class in the 2000s, early 2000s. And we hadn't taught C for 10, 12 years. I was the only one that was still around that had taught it. And they asked, and we worked on it, and I said, okay, yeah, well, if we can get 15, I can slip it by the dean, and they'll let us do it, and we can do that. So they went around, and they got enough to have that, and we were doing that. And I also had a rule about cell phones. Students with cell phones in my classroom only got the opportunity to turn it off if it rang. I was the only one that could answer it. If they could get the phone turned off before I got to them, I didn't answer it. Otherwise, I answered and asked whoever was calling why they were interrupting my class. Okay? Now that's the rule we had. If I can get the mouse to work right. Hello. I'm teaching class right now. Who's this? What? Are you calling Bo? Wait a second, that's my wife. That's what it sounded like. How did she get your number? How did you get her number?
He told me she worked at Dynamic Solutions. So I looked at the website, emailed her.
Okay.
Say hi.
Now, you know, he's going to be in real trouble. Can you see that he's got me on a webcam?
I'm recording.
He's recording now. If this shows up on YouTube, you don't even want to think about what happened.
No,
to your grades.
it's for my accomplice. He wants to see it.
Okay. I've been punked, yes. Grades are still not turned in yet. He is a brave guy. Did you get the email from Connie? Somehow it got lost then, so we'll have to find out. Okay, I didn't remember it. Okay, talk to you later. Yes, we'll talk to you later, love. Bye, love.
Now turn my volume off.
That my wonderful wife, who is an amazingly tolerant woman, we've been married for 47 years this summer. And if that doesn't make her a saint, I don't know what does. So, but she worried about this. And so she checked and found out that this was a guy I had done a special topics for who needed a class for the next semester as a prerequisite. Hadn't got it, so I taught it to him and another person over summer. In the great tradition of independent study, you know, faculty, you don't get paid for it. So she figured he was okay, and it was good. I told him not to post it. Well, he did, but come up and say, I heard something about it. That's my wife. And I go, I don't know what you're talking about. And it didn't get very many letters. I'm taking way too long. Dr. Richard Shermoen. Well, let's see. I need to go back. I graduated from K-State with my master's in computer science in July '81. And in August, I started at Washburn in the Mathematics, Statistics, and Computer Information Sciences department. Washburn had just started a degree in computer science. They offered the first degrees that were awarded in 1982 after I started here. There were 2 computer scientists hired to help guide this and become a computer science major. One left after a year and a few months. We won't talk about that. I stuck around. It was a great shock to go from being a graduate teaching assistant, where the faculty didn't give a 2 hoots in what you wanted. This was your syllabus, this was the topics, this is the textbook you're going, go for it. I came here, I was made the chair of the curriculum department, and the whole faculty looked at me and said, Rick, what should we do now? Very scary stuff. It was a learning experience to go from nobody cares to you're in charge. It was interesting. Dr. Richard Shermoen, my first chair, he guided me through this. He was wonderful. He helped me learn how to be a faculty member as opposed to a grad student. Dr. Billy Milner was on the CS curriculum committee with me. He helped me start a student organization. I felt we needed a computer student organization. We still have it. We started it. I was the faculty advisor from '82 to 2022. I tried to get younger ones to do it, and they always didn't. So I did. I felt it was necessary for that. Dr. Al Rivlin, who is here today, by the way, he helped me with advising. I felt it was important to be an advisor, but I didn't know Washburn. And I was in an office right next to his, and they started, it used to be that the chair advised all the majors in the math department because there were so few. Well, when the computers started taking off, suddenly there were not so few anymore. And we started having the CS faculty advising them. And I can't tell you the number of times in those first 2 years where I ran around the corner and I asked Al, what's the rule for this? And he'd find it in the catalog, and I learned how to read the silly catalog, which is impossible for students to read. And he did wonderful things for me. Gary Schmidt, he taught me to have fun at Washburn. He was ornery, amazingly ornery. He convinced me to let Gordon McQuare appoint me as the director of integrated studies. I did for several years. That was great. He encouraged me, and Dr. McQuare had me be in the Arts and Sciences advising group. We advised over summer school, or over the summer orientation, and we did what they called blueprint freshman orientation in the fall when they started. It was wonderful. I got to meet people all over campus, all over different departments. We were advising the non-declared majors. Before we did this, they were sat in a room over in Morgan, and they had 50 people with one person trying to help them get enrolled. And we started doing it, and we brought laptops in, and we set them up and upstairs in Kansas room, and we got them through in a couple hours as opposed to 7 hours. It was really, really a wonderful one. Now, I'm also going to be talking about lifelong learning and computer science. Now, the relative youth of the computer science discipline. You've had a greeting cards that plays happy birthday. When you get done and throw it away, you're throwing away more computing power than existed in the world in 1950. We went to the moon with less computing power than my old Samsung S9, or is it an S10? I don't know. What are they at now? 27? It has grown, and it's really hard to imagine how much things have changed. And I feel like as a faculty member, one of our main tasks was to help students learn how to learn. You can't just stand up and give them knowledge. You can't cut the top of their head off, pour it in, and stitch it back up, and it's done. They have to learn how to learn it on their own. And especially in computer science, because when they leave, what did you say now, Sean? He has been a troublemaker my whole life. You want to help them learn how to learn. I was first exposed to computing in 1971 when I learned Fortran and key punching. At the time, there were no computers in high schools and in universities, except for large research universities. The computer science people wrote programs and run them on off hours on the administrative computer. When I learned, I got 2 runs a day. I could pick up my card deck, type it up, get it fixed, turn it in, and they would run it. I turned it in at night, and they would run it from 7 to 8 in the morning, put it in a cubby hole. I would pick it up sometime that day, and as long as I got it back in by 3 o'clock, it was run in the afternoon from 4 to 5 and put back out, and I pick it up, fix it again, and turn it back in for the next day. And they didn't run on weekends. And yes, I walked uphill both ways to school. But it's changed, and it kept growing and changing. I worked in the math computer labs from my sophomore through senior year. When I retired from Washburn, I'm willing to bet that I was one of the few people that knew how to unjam a key punch. A relatively useless skill, but I still know how to do it. I learned that. I've been doing this. It's 75 years. Okay, folks, I'm old. Not quite that old. I will turn 73 this year. So in my lifetime, we went from no computers to what we have now. The ENIAC was the first computer that we really want to talk about, all-purpose. I'm giving you a little history now. I'm going to run through them fairly quick because I'm running out of time. Whoops. This is a picture of the ENIAC. The ENIAC was a monstrous machine. It was general purpose. It was like 30 tons. And it didn't, you had to rewire it. When it was time to put a new program in, you unplugged all the wires in the back and you spent the next 3 weeks rewiring it to get to the next program. Okay? And we went from that to computers. Grace Hopper, this is something I wanted to mention too. The first programmers were female. Ada Lovelace. The Babbage differential machine was a design there. Ada Lovelace worked with him and designed the algorithms that the machine was going to use to do the programs. Grace Hopper, amazing lady, I got to see her talk. She used to hand out nanoseconds. She said, what is a nanosecond? And nobody could really tell. I mean, you can do the calculations. But it turns out that the speed of light goes about 11 3/4 inches in a nanosecond. So she got cable and would cut them 11 3/4 inches and give them away at her things. She was ornery, she was 5 foot nothing, and people walked in fear of her in the federal government. She was amazing. She did the first compiler for a computer programming language. She did COBOL. She started the COBOL. She's an amazing person. Modern computer, large machine room building, lots of cooling capacity. The ENIAC, the average time between failure, 5.6 hours. Oh, and we also have the debugging. That's the log book that shows a moth that got attracted. They spent 8 hours debugging the computer because they had relays and sparks and heat attracted a moth, and it got between the contacts, and so it didn't make the contacts, so it didn't release, and it stopped. And it took 8 hours tracing through and finding it, so she did this. This is why I really like her. She's almost as ornery as I am. Taped it in there, said we spent 8 hours debugging the computer because their admiral wanted to know what they'd done. Let's see, I'm skipping ahead. We go through the ENIAC, the UNIVAC, some of the early IBMs, then we got the IBM 360. That was a computer that was going to be a general purpose computer. Before that, you had computers that were business, and you had computers that were computational. But they were two different ones. And the 360, which was developed by IBM in the 1960s, it finally came out about 68 or 69 as usual, but they called it the 360 because they started thinking about it in the late 50s. It was the first general purpose. It had job control. It had compilers so it could do both at the same time, depending on what software you put on it. It was a gamble for IBM. Nobody had ever done it before. They did time sharing. They did virtual memory on this. All of the things that everything is old hands now. If it failed, IBM would have been non-existent. They got lucky. Then you go on to microcomputers in 1977, the TRS-80, the Apple II. TRS-80, that's Tandy Radio Shack. Okay? Now, that was the best-selling one until 1982 on an order of 5-1 against the Apple, until Apple gave them away free to schools. When they gave them away free to high schools, everybody got used to them, and that's what they wanted then. And that's how that moved along. I've always somebody who liked to learn just for the fun of learning. Did you guys have a world book at your place? My dad had a world book when I was in junior high, high school. And I always had a problem because whenever I went to use it, I would read 6 articles that looked interesting before I got to what I was trying to look up. And I would just keep doing that. Some days when I was bored, I'd just take a volume and sit over in the corner and read the whole dang thing. It was fun. I'm sorry, I'm a nerd. I have learned at least 16 different computer languages in my career. I have taught courses in 14 of them. 5 that I counted up did not exist when I graduated with my last degree. Not that I didn't bother to study them, but it did not exist to be studied. The courses that I taught when I finished, only 1 course, used what I had learned when I graduated in '81. Everything else I had to learn. I went to conferences. I would race students through a book when it was a new course. I would read 3 books while they read 1. And it's interesting when you're the one that has to be right. You work hard at it. But it was fun. Now I'm going to start telling stories. I think I've still got a few minutes. I also taught, I've got this thing, a jack of all trades, master of none, still better than a master of one, because if you got a master of one, they do the one thing, but they can't do anything else. When I was here, I taught programming. I taught math classes. I taught methods of teaching mathematics for 3 student teachers one semester, because Dr. Shermoen found out that I had a lifetime's teaching certificate. I had done student teaching. I had taken all the ACM-SIGCSE and stuff. And he said, well, this education department doesn't have anybody in STEM, and I would rather have our math majors have somebody that knows math who can at least tell them if they're doing the math right or wrong. And you're going to do this for me. Well, he asked, but it was, you're going to do it for me. And so I did the methods of teaching math. We were prepping and doing stuff. They were preparing lessons to teach intermediate algebra here, which is kind of high school algebra. And the other students were supposed to play the part of being the students when they were teaching. Well, they never pushed them because they didn't want to get pushed themselves. Well, I volunteered. And I had a really good student. She was just brilliant, going to be a great teacher, is a great teacher. And she slipped up on one little thing, and so I noticed it, and I kind of hounded her on it, pushed her, why? And she was just boiling. And I finally said, are you frustrated? She goes, yeah. And I said, why don't you just take, because it was a chalkboard. I said, just take that chalk eraser and throw it at me. And she reeled back and whop, hit me right here. Chalk exploded. She looked at me, and you could see on her face, this is the guy that is going to supervise my student teaching, that's going to decide if I get to be a teacher. And I just nailed him in the forehead with a full chalk eraser. My life is over. And I said to myself, we've got a learning opportunity here. And so the first thing I said was, okay, folks, I screwed up. That was my mistake, not hers. I shouldn't have told her to do that. That was pretty stupid on my part, wasn't it? And now, what is she going to learn from this? You've got to control your impulses. And we had a nice long discussion, and great learning took place. And then I went to the restroom and cleaned the chalk off. It was rather a mess. But that's part of what I wanted to do. I wanted students to be relaxed. I told jokes in class. They're not good jokes. They're clean. Why did the chicken cross the road? To prove to the skunk that it could be done. If you can't get it, think about roadkill, okay? And they moaned. And I told them they had to laugh at my jokes. Not every joke, but 1 out of 3. And I usually counted for them and told them that was the third one they had to laugh. But they would come to class and we would joke and we would have fun and they would learn. They would learn. What we did in our discipline is we would start students at the beginning and we'd hold their hands a lot in the freshman classes. Sophomore classes, a little less, a little less, a little less. And when you get to the junior and senior level, they're doing a lot of learning on their own and you're just guiding them. And I did that. They asked me to teach a bunch of students came to me and said, we want to learn game programming. And I said, okay, we can do that. I'll ask. None of the faculty none of us had done any game programming. And they go, but we really want to do it. And I go, well, okay, I'm an idiot. I'll do it. And I went to a conference. I had a 2-hour tutorial from a person that had done it the semester before in his school. We got a book, and I told him, if you're coming and we're going to do this, we've got to have an agreement. You have to understand that I don't know crap about this. I'm going to be racing you through the book. We're going to be learning it together. They gave me assignments. I had to learn how to do a video game. And I had to get to a certain level by a certain time, like a month and a half in. And it was not particularly easy for me because I like to program. Gaming, nah. But we did this. And when we got done to the end, it was amazing. I didn't know the stuff. We developed a game engine, and then we wrote games in that game engine. I had a student that gave an Apron presentation of the game he did. I had 2 other students the next semester do an independent study on gaming. It was a wonderful experience. But I didn't know anything about it before we started. I think I've probably beat it to death now. When we did this, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had so much experience in programming and things that when something went wrong, they would look at me and it's like, I don't know, let's try this. Let's talk about it this way. And they'd listen and then they go do it and it'd work and I'd look brilliant. And they'd say, how did you know that? And you go, well, it just seemed like the thing to try. It was just experience. Last thing, AI. I've got somebody that, I've got a quote from Tim Berners-Lee, who he's a Turing Award laureate. He's the World Wide Web inventor. And his comment is that even if the AI models are reliable, accurate, and unbiased, there will be concerns whether the company or his user interests are being fulfilled. He wants AI that's not trying to sell him something. He wants AI that's working for him. And my son works in AI. AI is still just a little past synthetic stupidity right now. It's not there yet. I'm not convinced it's ever going to be there. Because it's using data that's out there, and it's consumed most of the data that's out there. And now it's publishing works that's going out into the data that the AI is now going to take in and use to make their decisions on works to publish, to put out to the AI that the next AI is going to take. And if you've got bad stuff propagates just as easy as good. I have been in this so long that I have seen the next shiny thing happening in computers, and everybody wants to adopt it. And then after 2 or 3 years, it finds its niche and it works for this. And they go to the next shiny thing. And I have not seen it fail yet, and I think this is another next shiny thing. Do you know why computer scientists are confused about Halloween and Christmas? When is Halloween? It's October 31st, right? When is Christmas? December 25th. Did you know that October 31st is equivalent to December 25th? Octal 3-1, 3 8s and a 1 gives you 25 total things. Decimal 2-5 is 2 10s and a 5. It is not. Do you know what my email signature is? Can you tell the one course that I taught that existed when I graduated? It was machine architecture, assembler, base, how you store numbers, etc. I did binary, octal, hexadecimal, floating point, integer, all of those good things, and I loved it. It takes a twisted individual to really like assembler, and I loved assembler. But keep learning, and I had a great time teaching and working with students. Thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't bore you too bad. Any questions? I think I've got 5 minutes. Oh, wow, I'm good. Okay, I got another story to tell you then. See these screens that come down? They used to hang them on a 2x10 plank bolted to the wall of the front of the classroom. How many of you have had one fall on you? It fell on you? How many have had two fall on you? The first time, the plank hit my back and scraped my back of my leg. The second time, it hit me on the head, and I was kind of stunned for a while. And the first time, I had to go to workman's comp because I made the mistake of telling HR. And I lost a whole day because I had to go and wait in line and everything else. So the next time when it hit me on the head and I was stunned and I didn't realize I was stunned, students did, I woke up and then I told them, hey, folks, I'm not going to go because I lost that, and I started to leave. They ran down and got HR and brought them to me, which made me feel really good because students don't do that if they don't care. And so that's it. Now we're done. I think you need to go to the thing. Thank you for your time.